But moving on to our next What's Hot topic, hashtag What's Hot, we're going to be talking about something that's really popular right now, especially during quarantine where sports is not something that's going on right now. People are talking about The Last Dance. So if you let Shaka take the lead on that one because he's the sports fanatic. You got the league podcast for basketball, so I'm gonna let him take the lead on that one.
We back at it in the fall when the league comes back. We got you covered. So as most of you guys know by now, The Last Dance is the Michael Jordan documentary, a 10-part series, hour each episode. That's airing on ESPN right now. It goes over Michael Jordan's last season with the Bulls, and it was 97. And so this is after winning 5 championships. They're going for that 6th one. And ownership has told Phil Jackson, like, yo, we're not bringing you back. And Mike's basically said, if Phil's not coming back, I'm not coming back. So they went into the season knowing, like, hey, this is
going to be the last dance. That's really what they called it, the last dance.
Hey, and so some smart guy had the foresight.
Foreshadow.
Foresight. I thought it's foresight.
Okay.
Whatever.
That one.
To film it, like to get the cameras rolling. So they got all this footage. So it's amazing just to see like this unfiltered. I mean, it's even like TVMA on ESPN. This unfiltered look at Mike, like unbuttoned, like it's dope. So as a non-sports person, you know what I'm saying? Me personally, I don't know a lot about the Mike stories, but as a non-sports person, do you feel like you're getting like into the story?
Yeah, I actually do. Like, I am definitely not a sports fanatic. And even then, like the sports that I do have interest in aren't necessarily like hardcore NBA fan. So I don't know too much of the ins and outs and the facts and the history around it. Like even when they do the trivias, I'd be like lost. But I'm watching it. I'm definitely feel like it's definitely a unfiltered kind of like inside scoop to what was going on. Not even just with Michael Jordan, which I really liked, but the team itself. Because you got Dennis Rodman that they like kind of like highlight, and him being on the team during that season. Scottie Pippen, Philip Jackson, the coach, and then Jerry, the general manager.
Jerry Cross. I had no idea who this guy was. It's just so crazy to see, like.
Yeah, like I had no idea about. Not saying I didn't have no idea about these players. Of course, I know about these players. These are great players, but I didn't know too much into the details that affected them on and off the court. And I feel like me watching it is a great way for like those headlines that was happening. Then us seeing the behind the headlines. What was really affecting them and what was really happening business wise behind the scenes that affected them on the court. So it was definitely worth it. Did I gain new information? Definitely. Was there some things that I had already knew? For sure. Has it changed my opinion on a lot of things? I wouldn't say I wouldn't say so. Like, not really. My opinion is kind of like the same in regards to like certain players or like certain business people in like the game itself, but I definitely think it's a great insight to it, especially right now when we don't have sports going on right now. It's definitely a great way, because I love documentaries, so it's a great way for me to like know about that 97 run with the Bulls without like necessarily having to do a ton of research on Google and all that. So
yeah, for sure. I definitely want to talk about this last, specifically episode 5. But before we do that, I did want to one, shout outs to what's his name, Jason here. He's done a lot of like 30 for 30s, like UFC type stuff. So he's directing this, and he's joined. Actually, I think it's just him or somebody else is like a major person too. I forget her name, but shout outs to them because they pushed this up. It was supposed to air like in June or July, and because of all the coronavirus stuff and the pressure put on them by some very important people, they decided to go ahead and put it out now. So I guess it's really not even done yet. So they haven't finished episode 9 or 10. So they're really kind of just piecing this together as they go, which is pretty crazy. But on that note, what do you think about the format? Like, so it shows like obviously the 97 season, but most of it's like flashing back throughout Mike's career.
Yes.
And every time a teammate joined the team, they would spend time to like, all right, this is this guy's story. We're going like back and forth. I think that's
Yes.
pretty crazy, like of a editing timeline. So what are your thoughts on how that's handled?
So, okay. It's like it could be a little distracting for me because I'm the type of person who's just like I feel like I'm a lot of viewers at times where I have to really just sit myself down and just to watch something like wholly no distractions, none of that. And a lot of us right now have a bunch of distractions. So it's kind of like hard for me to be like, okay, what time frame are we in? Like, are we in 84, 85? Oh, we're in 97 right now. So yes, like it is a little distracting how we're going back and forth, back and forth. I really wish that we can like seamlessly go through things, but I guess I'm understanding that a lot of the stuff that was happening in 80s is directly affecting his decisions in the game in the 90s. So that's why I understand, but it just shows that this is something you have to pay attention to. So if you really want to know the ins and outs of what was going on, like the smallest of details, you need to really pay attention to it. Like I like the idea of giving me, the 80s, what was going on in the 80s and then what was going on in the 90s, specifically 97, 84, 85. And then you also give me the present day interviews for those situations. But I feel like it's like I'm getting like three different time frames and I'm jumping all between all of them, which can be a little bit hard.
I think it's funny too because like I can't really tell. Actually, I do know. I feel like this doc is for specifically people who are basketball fans. Michael Jordan, you know, not just Michael Jordan fans, people that are really NBA nuts. So I think this documentary kind of takes an assumption that Michael Jordan's career. So it feels the freedom to be able to like hop around. Where somebody that actually knows things is like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that moment. Oh, dang, I forgot when he went crazy on the Knicks in the garden, blah, blah, blah. Where someone that doesn't know these moments, I always felt like, man, this probably is kind of like hard to like
Yeah,
keep
I
track
feel
of
like
where we're at.
it's a little bit hard for me to keep track, and it's just like I want to be one of those people who's done with it, be like, I learned so much from it, and I feel like, okay, I learned something, but I'm also still very confused.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, like, of course, it's on ESPN. It's brought to you by ESPN and Netflix, if you did not know that. But it's definitely for the people who are like at home right now, who already are in tune to sports and in tune to ESPN, and are definitely like, dang, sports is not happening. What's my substitute? Why not watch something about the one of the greatest players of all time, Michael Jordan?
The
And
greatest, the GOAT.
yeah, and so it's also just like also another opportunity for people who were around in those times, like living in those times, going to those games, who were kids, growing up during the Michael Jordan era, to really, like you said, have those moments where it's like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I forgot about that. I remember it was like this and that. Whereas for me, it's just kind of like I'm literally just getting snapshots of stuff that was happening, you know?
Mm-hmm. Man, so I definitely want to talk about what happened in today's episode. But this just reminded me, like, it's also cool, like, I feel like they're telling it as if we're going back in time at
Mm-hmm.
points and we're like reliving the moments. Whereas I feel
Mm-hmm.
like some other docs are more like it's a book. It's like, all right, well, in 92, Mike
Mm-hmm.
did this. So like for someone who obviously I was born like in 94, so I wasn't conscious for like that second string of
I was born
championships.
in '97, so the
Yeah.
last dance era. So it's kind of like, what?
So it's kind of like I know some of this stuff, but I don't really know it. I know from perspective of like I read the stats, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
like the box score or the box scores, but to actually
Mm-hmm.
see like the actual news stories, the
Mm-hmm.
actual like interviews from back then, like in order and different
Mm-hmm.
times, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
crazy to be like, dang, I didn't even know like the magnitude of this moment. So that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. But we can go ahead and get into some things that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode kind of started off with the whole like be like Mike thing. They showed like the Gatorade commercials. We even
Be
seen
like Mike, drink Gatorade.
we even saw like the Spike Lee stuff, um,
Yeah.
uh, and all that kind of stuff. So there's always just been this thing like in basketball where it's like different eras. There's like different guys who are like the face of the league. So way back
Yeah.
in the day, like in the '70s, you had like Dr. J, like Julius
Mhm.
Erving. He's like the guy with the fro, the
Mhm.
swag, the
Mhm.
cars, the women.
Mhm.
Like he's the first like swaggy superstar. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then we have Magic and Bird in that battle. And that's kind of like boxing. You have like the black people rooting for the black dude in LA and white people rooting for Larry Bird in Boston. So there's like this whole like country is split. Two
Mhm.
amazing players, great personalities, whatever.
Mhm.
And then we have Jordan.
Who
And this is
was literally the all-American dream.
so yeah, this is also at the time when David Stern, who was the commissioner of the league, was trying to make it a global game. So we even seen
Mhm.
like Heather Rick in the Olympics and all that other stuff.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
Mike was like the child of the swaggy Dr. J, the
Mhm.
successful businessman in terms of like making basketball money of Magic and Larry. Now this is this guy who's like brought up to be like, all right, we have all these lessons. Now you're gonna be this perfect person.
Embodiment of all of them.
So Mike had literally had nothing that we saw get out. Like we didn't hear about anything bad. We didn't hear
Mhm.
about him smoking and drinking. I mean, he had the cigars or
Mhm.
whatever. So
Mhm.
like, what do you think about this image that he had to live up to up until this point in his career?
I think I think they do a great representation of saying basically he had a lot of pressure. Like that he had a lot of pressure to the point where it could literally drive somebody insane. Somebody who was truly in love with playing the game and competition could literally be like, I'm done, I'm over it, because of the pressure from the league and the pressure from the media.
Mm-hmm.
And, at some point, the controversy about his gambling career,
Yeah,
or not career, his gambling, and them trying to like finally they get something that's
we
negative
got him.
about him. Like I said, we got him. Finally get something negative about him, and it's just like they're running it to the ground. And he even talked about like most of the times where he has a little sense of peace is when he's alone in a hotel room. And I'm like, that is terrible as a
Literally, he's sitting in the
person.
hotel room like, bro, the only time I have to myself is if I sit in this room.
Yes, and then you guys come and bother me. That's what he says. So it's just kind of like, dang, that is a lot of pressure from one person to have, not just for one day, not for 1 week, but for years.
They said he
As
was the
they
biggest icon in the world, not just sports. Like,
No, he was like they're going to different countries, and different countries are rocking USA t-shirts, like USA, Michael Jordan t-shirts. People are begging him for autographs, begging him for
billboards in
tabs.
Barcelona.
Yeah, like he is literally the biggest name when it comes to sports, and then especially when it comes to NBA. So it's that pressure, and it's just kind of like you don't want to mess it up. And so I think that one thing they just really did really well of was also highlighting the fact that he didn't try to mess it up with like what was going on in his personal life. So no drugs, no alcohol, cases of infidelities, all that. You didn't hear about that. But then it was also just kind of like he didn't want to mess it up also with saying something that somebody didn't necessarily agree with. And that's what they also talk about politics and his opinions on that. And he's definitely one of those people who's kind of like, I don't know nothing about that. I'm just be quiet. I'm just sitting back. I don't know nothing about that. And it's just
Yeah.
like I feel like a lot of people have definitely noted that when it comes to Michael Jordan, and noted that when it comes to like being frustrated with Michael Jordan. So I feel like he did definitely face a lot of pressure. To be only also too was 30 years old in 97. Was it 97? He was like the
Yeah.
last dance. He was like 30 years old, I believe. I'm not sure. I could
Like
be
he's like
very, very young.
32.
He was in his early 30s to be dealing with all of that.
Interesting. That started when he was in his like early 20s. So it's like
Yeah, you're dealing with the pressure of trying to be perfect since you first like played like almost professional basketball. So like starting off in college and then transitioning to professional basketball. So that's a good 9, 10 plus years of trying to keep this perfect image.
when
That's a lot.
everyone around you isn't. You see, like the
Is
first
it?
episode when he's a rookie, his rookie year, he's like 21 years old.
He
He
said he
goes
going to hotel rooms, seeing lines of
like,
people doing cocaine,
I
people
never seen none of this in
smoking.
my life. And
Yeah.
you gotta think these are like millionaire. Well, back then they weren't getting kind of bread they getting now, but these are rich people, so they have access to a lot of stuff. So for this young kid to come into this,
Mhm,
and he's like the third pick in the draft, superstar,
mhm,
NCAA
mhm,
champion, and
mhm,
like man, like,
mhm.
and what did he do? He
Walked
took
out.
like, who does that? Me?
Yeah.
What? What's cracking?
Shut up. But
And
that
I'll give
shows.
you 30 in the morning.
Shut up. That shows his mentality though, because he even said it too. He said, My thought process right when that happened was like, whoa." But it was kind of like, I need to get out of here because they can come in here right now at any moment and raid, and I'd be just as responsible as these people are, and I'm not even doing that. That shows his mindset. He
He
was
has a
like,
mission.
he's on a mission. He doesn't want to mess up. Here's an opportunity. He's trying to be the best out of doing it, and he's not trying to do anything that will jeopardize himself of doing that. That's a lot of pressure to place upon yourself, and that's a lot of pressure for the world, not just NBA, not just sports fans, but the world is putting on Michael Jordan. Like you can literally be somebody who literally did not really like sports or anything like that, but Michael Jordan had become such an icon off the court that it was just kind of like you even had opinions of Michael Jordan and didn't even like follow him for his career. So
And that kind of leads
crazy.
into the whole Michael and the support from the Black community. I know, like, okay, we know that Michael Jordan isn't necessarily the greatest advocate of social justice and stuff. And I know, like, when we talked about this off air, you mentioned that you thought, or which a lot of people would agree. I think even Mike would agree to some of this. Is because he didn't want to, like, say the wrong things. He's all this pressure, and so he doesn't want to be controversial in any way because it's going to mess
Mm-hmm.
up the bread and it's going to mess up his
Mm-hmm.
image. Will mess up the
Mm-hmm.
image, mess up the bread. And
Mm-hmm.
so me personally, I feel like obviously, yes, that has a lot to do with it. But I think that when he said that, like, I didn't know this guy,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean, I'm not about to support him. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I'm an athlete. Like, I'm glad that Muhammad Ali was an activist too. But I just never saw myself in this way. I
So he just
really,
saw himself as an athlete. Yeah.
I really believe that. Like, I really believe, like, in his head, like, it's okay just to like work on your craft and just
Mm-hmm.
worry about that. That's what allowed him to be the greatest of all time. He's literally like obsessed with basketball.
Yeah.
And so I think that while
I
like
think it's interesting too.
mm,
I wanted to pinpoint that this interesting too because in a sense, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was very similar to that. He was
that's
just
his
kind of
big
like,
bro.
I'm not an activist, I'm an athlete. So like I don't have opinions on this. And then if he does have an opinion, it's not the opinion that people want. And so it's always that controversy around it. So he's like, maybe I should just be quiet and just stick with the stuff I know. So it's just like I get it. I get the whole point of like you being an athlete and of course you don't know this guy. This is not from the state, you're living in, your current playing floor. So why do you have to? But I think it's just kind of like I feel like there's an undeniable pressure. There's an undeniable responsibility that Black or artists of color have on themselves when it comes to representing their people. And it wasn't just like, oh, the guy, the potential senator candidate, Gant, was just a rando and his competitor was just another rando. No, his
Yeah.
competitor was clearly a prejudiced person.
Yeah.
His actions was showed that he was prejudiced and showed that he was not for people of color, was not for the impoverished. And it's just kind of like, here's somebody who is you're literally being faced with what is right and wrong. And you're literally saying, I don't want to say nothing about the right and wrong because I'm an athlete. So it's just kind of like he literally said that a lot of people were disappointed in him for it. A lot of people.
I think that's kind of crazy too, because like LeBron's little slogan right now, his company slogan with him and Maverick Carter is more than an athlete. Like, that's his
Mm-hmm.
brand. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of crazy to see the evolution
Mm-hmm.
now, where it's like LeBron's really involved. Although I do,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I think LeBron, that whole thing is gas because we don't see LeBron talking about
Mm-hmm.
presidential candidates. You don't see LeBron talking about things that are controversial. He's still pretty safe to
I don't think so. I think it's just kind of like I don't think so because definitely he has definitely said things are controversial. He's worn things that are
what
controversial. He's worn Black Lives Matter T-shirts. He's worn Trayvon Martin. Those are considered controversial topics. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, for a lot of people, that is still considered controversial. That's where the whole "shut up and dribble" thing came from when people were talking about LeBron James. Was because he was very vocal about the struggle of Black lives and like in regards to police relations. So I don't think you could say he's definitely straddling the line. He's definitely done more in the sense that I can say vocally in comparison to Michael Jordan.
I do think also that's a symptom of the times. We're in a different
Mm-hmm.
time now where I think athletes have the ability to really be on Twitter, to really be out here that own media companies. Back then when Mike was doing it, literally you play basketball and you're supposed to go home. It's not like you're this. But I do think my whole point with LeBron was just like, not to get this on LeBron, but I will get this out there. I think that he's safe controversial, where he says things that he knows, like he knows when you look back in history, this person is wrong, and he knows history is going to reflect that, right? And he knows these are topics where it's like, this person is being prejudiced, racist, whatever. But where I think that a guy like Muhammad Ali is different is, like, Muhammad Ali didn't go into the war. He dodged the, you know what I mean? Things like that, those aren't safe controversial. Those are like, bro, to this
he was
day,
willing to lose his titles to
put
like
everything on the line. Like,
everything on the line because he believed and undoubtedly that
and
he
no,
had to be supportive of
and
that
no
war.
athlete should have to do that. I'm just saying, is when we talk about people being like activists and really like being controversial, I do think it's a little disrespectful to the athletes that really were like even like a
there's a basketball player that was just very as like activists like that to a point. They
like
like push him.
Kareem.
Yes,
They didn't push him out, but are you talking about Abdul-Kareem? Was it Abdul-Kareem? What's his name? He's a Muslim dude who legit got blackballed in the NBA.
Yeah, blackball from the NBA, like literally pushed him out because he was so vocal about black struggle, being Muslim and a black Muslim at that.
Yeah, so I definitely want to
Don't
create
get
a
me wrong,
separation
there
between the
there
two.
is levels. You got like there are levels of people who are just like, I don't want to speak on it because I'm just an athlete, I'm not an activist. Then you got those who are like, I know this is wrong, I'm an athlete, but I also can be very vocal about something that's wrong. And then you got people who are just complete, I'm an activist, I'm a human being, I am for human beings before anything. I know I'm an athlete, but I'm an activist.
I was gonna say it too is, you saw the whole China controversy with the NBA. Did you see that when Daryl Morey, who's the Rockets GM, basically tweeted out support for people in China who were kind of struggling with their government and freedoms and stuff like that, and LeBron basically was like mad because he did that, because basically he messed. LeBron's the biggest athlete in China, dang near, like that's that's the NBA's second biggest market is China. So basically, he cost LeBron millions of dollars. LeBron was basically mad because of that. Instead of, we look back in history, obviously the right point is to be with the people of China. So what the dude did wasn't bad, just in terms of business, it hurt everybody's money. So that's those times we see like, I don't know. But anyway, not about that. I do want to say that while I said all that, I still am like, I want to celebrate LeBron. And also too, I don't want to be hard on Jordan, because I think people get caught up in the fact that like he's not on the front lines. He's never gonna say anything controversial. He's never gonna say anything approaching borderline controversial. He's not. He's gonna be safe. But I think when we criticize that, we get into that whole idea of lumping all Black people in one category and making it feel like we all have to have the same opinions. I'm willing to bet a lot of money that Mike's opinions on life are not in line with the most popular opinions of most Black people.
For sure, but it's not even just like what Black.
That's why he's not talking though. That's why he's not talking.
It's not just in regards to what's support of what's Black and just Black voices and stuff. I think it's just also just like over the years, you could even look at today. It's just more so, are you going to be a voice of something that's clearly wrong, or are you just going to be one of those people, a part of history, who didn't say anything, who were still just as equally wrong?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. My own point was just the fact that I think that a lot of the reasons is he doesn't talk is because his opinions aren't in line with everyone's opinions. In the same way, it's okay to have Black Republicans to a certain extent. Now, don't get me. There's there's levels to it.
He said Republicans wear Jordans too.
Whoa, but obviously there's different levels to this. But I'm saying is like, it's like Stephen A. Smith, right? A lot of Black people don't like Stephen A. Smith because he feel like he's a sellout. He's corporate. But my thing is, it's okay for Black people to feel like, I want to work in a system. I want to be corporate. And for Mike is the ultimate example of a Black man in suits. He was always buttoned up, dressed up. We don't have these images before Mike. Like, Mike is the guy that had all the nice wear.
I wouldn't say that we didn't have those images. I just feel like there was a scarcity of them.
I don't think on the level of Mike, like literally the biggest.
Level of Mike, of course, yeah, definitely.
Look. You can't not have the camera on Mike. So that means every day in America in the early 90s, you had this Black man on TV, the most powerful man in pop culture was a Black man in a suit. Like, that image is because of Mike. Like, let's not ignore the fact that he went and avoided controversy for 20 years in the NBA public life. Like, Now, how many athletes do you know on that level of success, whether it be the Mayweathers, the Tiger Woods, whoever, who successfully navigated that?
Bro, you just mentioned two people who had complete
But
controversies.
no, I'm
Those are
saying is,
not the
who's the
best
biggest golfer?
examples.
No, I'm saying, who's the face of golf?
Yeah, Tiger Woods.
Who's the face of boxing? The most successful boxer of all time, financially.
Like right now?
Floyd Mayweather makes $300 million a fight.
Hmm.
No other boxer is even. When he fought Conor McGregor made like $150 million less than him on that fight. Because Mayweather is the biggest name in boxing history in terms of financially. Controversy.
But we could be running on and on and on about this topic. But ultimately, if you have not been watching The Last Dance, check it out. New episodes are every Sunday, so make sure you check those out. We're gonna move along to our next topic.